brainwashing. 45 years in the advertising industry have given me personal and professional insight into the power of propaganda, positive and negative, and the use of words and images to influence, change, and even transform people's lives. The knowledge and insights I've gained have inspired me to provoke an honest discussion in the hope that the healing process can finally begin, says Tom Burrell, former head of Burrell Communications, in his book Brainwashed, Challenging the Myth of Black Inferiority. All ad agencies employ creativity, writing, art, photography, and music to capture the public's much divided attention. However, the most important part of what we do is study people. Why they do what they do, and why they buy what they buy. Understanding what motivates people is a crucial part of my profession. But being a black man, I was compelled to understand the way blacks are viewed in this country and the way many of us unconsciously view ourselves. Connecting the black dots on a larger level early on, from slavery and Jim Crow segregation to commercial and social propaganda, became my passion. Burrell Communications research of the 70s and 80s showed that African Americans have distinct psychological needs, desires, fears, hopes, and aspirations, all born of the circumstances arising from our experience as chattel slaves in America. We discovered, for example, that black preference for high-end status brands was driven by the need to compensate for feelings of low self-esteem. Our penchant for a lopsided spending-savings ratio grew out of our need for immediate gratification, based on a chilling pessimism about an uncertain future. We over-index spending disproportionate amounts in every product category related to cleanliness, from feminine douches and scented laundry detergent to car deodorizers and household disinfectants, primarily to compensate for being historically stereotyped as dirty.
Here is what sales psychologists have to say about selling to the Negro.
The secret of selling to the Negro is expressed in one word. That word is recognition. Now, there's nothing unusual about that. People want to be recognized. They need recognition. That's basic in all of us. But perhaps because he's had so little of it, the Negro needs even more. He needs to feel important and appreciated. This need is a very real and important one. It shows up even in many of the Negro's shopping habits. Anyone who sells or wants to sell to the Negro customer should know about some of these habits. 3 habits in particular play a big part in every sales transaction. To begin with, most Negroes buy by brand. They ask for products by name. They're quick to turn down off-brands. Do you wonder why? Well, listen to what this customer is thinking.
That last hat I bought just didn't hold up at all.
You see, for a long time, the Negro has been sold a lot of shoddy, second-class merchandise. So now he asks for name brands in order to make sure he gets his money's worth. Buying by brand, that's the first important Negro buying habit. Now for the second. The Negro buys good quality merchandise. Symbols of quality and prestige are very important to the Negro customer. This woman, for example, is buying fine crystalware. But she is also buying the admiration and approval of her friends and relatives. Listen to her thoughts.
My, isn't it beautiful? I can hardly wait to show it to Sally and Joan.
It's a well-known fact that many Negro customers are influenced by the opinions of others. What their friends may think of a certain item often decides whether or not the sale is made. So remember, the Negro buys quality merchandise. That's the second important point. And here's the third thing to remember when selling to a Negro customer. When he specifically asks for one thing, don't try to sell him something else. Don't try to switch him at the point of sale. If you do, he'll probably react something like this.
Doesn't he think I've got the money to pay for it?
There's a reason for this reaction. Again, because he's had experience with cheap merchandise, the Negro resents being offered a substitute. He wants to be sold on quality, not price. The Negro buys by brand, he buys quality, and he doesn't like to be switched at point of sale. These are the keys to selling the Negro customer.
The genesis of all these attitudes can be traced to American slavery. It was in America, the land of the free, that Africans were chained and branded both physically and psychologically as subhuman beasts of burden. It was here that we were first indoctrinated with the idea that we were in fact not humans at all, but property. I determined to gain a clearer picture of the various ways that our painful history in America manifests itself in present-day attitudes and behaviors. Yes, there were intergenerational and historic factors determining African American purchasing. As a marketing professional who respects and admires brilliantly conceived and deftly executed propaganda, I eventually recognized that one of the greatest propaganda campaigns of all time was the masterful marketing of the myth of black inferiority to justify slavery within a democracy. Ingenious. I also became fascinated by the timeline of this perverse but brilliant campaign. The brainiac of his day, Thomas Jefferson, propagandist extraordinaire, chief strategist and creative director, along with other powdered wig power brokers, sold the idea of white supremacy to the masses, all the masses. They conspired to make this out-and-out barbarity America's first big brand. The early American ruling class used every available tool, religion, law, politics, art, literature, even the nascent field of science, as tools of their sales, promotion and PR strategy. The goal was to rationalize and reconcile the development of a single society with two outrageously contradictory parts. One built on the concept of human freedom, the other built on a vicious, governmentally sanctioned destruction of human freedom, all with the same history-making quill pen. Think about it. America had grappled with the moral dilemma of slavery ever since the first Africans landed in Jamestown in 1619. The founding fathers found themselves at a serious moral crossroads. They desperately needed a way to justify the gaping divide between their God-fearing, freedom-loving rhetoric and the nation's increasing addiction to cheap slave labor. The solution? An effective marketing campaign created to not only force the institution of slavery to fit within the budding democracy, but one aimed at convincing both master and slave that blacks had always been and would forever be mentally, physically, spiritually, and culturally inferior. On a personal level, I'm revolted, yet as a marketing man, I find it to be an audacious and ingenious strategy. It is as though the original colonial elites hired a PR agency to sell the concept that Africans were innately inferior, and it was indeed completely justifiable to treat them as subhuman beasts. The last several centuries still haunt us and hinder our advancement and achievement. It has separated successful blacks from disposable blacks, those who simply refuse to act right and prosper. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the mind of the masses.